Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome back to marathon session on sociology. So, I have taken up the sample paper which NTA had released in the month of July. So, some questions we will try to discuss, and here we will find out. We'll try to see what all sections these questions had been made upon, and on that basis what all sections you need to be prepared for the examination, and what sections you can leave, or what should be your strategy, the last minute strategy to attempt the examination. So that we will talk about in the today's session. So first we'll move on to the summary. So here, if I say summary, so in this summary, basically, I have made the summary on the basis of the questions that has been asked. So in sociology, two books you have in 12th standard, that is Indian Society and Social Change and Development. So from Indian Society, as 50 questions in total. So from Indian Society, somewhere 36 questions had been framed and in the sample paper, and 14 questions moreover from the second book, that is Social Change and Development. So here you can see a clearly imbalanced paper had been made among these two books. So social change and development, in which 8 chapters you are having, but merely 14 to 15 questions they have made. They have put questions on. And Indian Society, where the total chapters are 7, but if you see from the exam preparation point of view, so only 5 chapters you get. Okay, so among the 5 chapters from 2 to 6, 36 questions are there in the examination or in the sample paper, not in the examination, but in the sample paper. So here, that doesn't mean that you have to focus on only one book, that is Indian Society, because these many questions had been put in the sample paper and you have to ignore Social Change and Development, that is the second book. That doesn't mean. Here, what you have to focus the chapters from where these questions had been put, or these questions had been made. Okay, so those chapters are important. Their importance you can see. So here I have made a summary of chapters as well. So from chapter 2, somewhere 9 to 10 questions. They have made 9 questions I have found. From chapter 3, 4 questions are there. Chapter 4, none of the questions they have made. Chapter 5, 7 questions, and chapter 6, 11 questions. So see, chapter 2, that is demographic structure of India, that is a lengthy chapter, and various concepts had been discussed, but 9 questions they have asked. And if you see the chapter 6, that is so from here 11 questions they have made. Okay, so this is about cultural development in India. So 11 questions they have made. It means many facts, many concepts that you will find in this chapter. So here, all these chapters, chapter 2, 3, 4 as well, it is also important. But you have to just go through it. You have to just go through the topics which is there in the fourth chapter. You cannot leave it aside. Chapter 5, that is also important because 7 questions they have made from this. 6 chapter, 11 questions. So the weightage of 6 chapter you can see clearly in this sample paper. Then come on the second book. So here's from chapter 1, 1 question, no question from chapter 2, 1 question from chapter 3, 2 questions from chapter 4, 4 questions from chapter 5, then 6 and 7 there is no weightage in the sample paper. And from chapter 8, 6 questions they have asked. All right, 6 to 7 questions they have asked. So here, that means these questions or this book is also important, but not least or not more. All right, but you, because you are going for the examination, so on the basis of the sample paper you cannot predict that only this book will be asked or only that book will be asked. So you have to go through all the chapters, you those sections or those chapters from where questions had not been asked, but at least you have to read the chapter. You have to keep the concepts in your mind if any question comes, so that you can attempt it. All right, now move on to the questions. So here, so yeah. So first question is what? Which among the following is not required? Demographic data. So here, this is what? This has been asked from Indian Society book, and the second chapter, that is demographic structure of Indian society. So this demographic structure of Indian society, from here, as I've said, as I've mentioned, 9 questions had been there from the section. So the concepts which is mentioned in the demographic structure of India, these concepts are important. The figures are important. the reasons. Basically, this chapter is about birth rate, death rate, and various other important rates like fertility, life expectancy, then population theory or demographic theory, or importance of demography, or the data about demography that is important, and how it is helpful or favorable or not favorable for the development of any country, especially in India, in Indian context we are talking about. So these concepts you should be aware of, so that if any question comes you can attempt it. So here, let's suppose this question that is talking about not required. So first look out the question is saying which among the following is not required demographic data. So this, the keyword is here, that is demographic data. And another keyword, not, it means you have to find out among the options which is not associated with the demographic data. So here four options have been mentioned: economic development, planning of policies, implementation of policies, private welfare. So if you see the first three options, economic development, planning of policies, implementation of policies. So demographic data are required for these three things, because on the basis of demographic data, demographic means population. So on the basis of the data of demography, country or the government, what they do, they comes out with the economic development program. They comes out with the proper planning, how policy, what policies has to be made, and how these policies need to be implemented, so that it can be favorable, or it can help the targeted population. So this understanding you should have, you need to have. So on that basis we can attempt this question. And private welfare, which is not associated with the demographic data, because there is nothing to do with the private welfare, that is an individual. All right, so private welfare, that is not associated with demographic data. So on that basis we can say that answer 4, that is the correct one. Okay, so theory of population growth was written in. So here this is a factual question, and from second chapter they have asked this question, demographic structure of Indian society. So here, what can be the answer? So that is a factual question, and the population theory which is mentioned in your book. So the name of the population theory by Malthus, that is essay on population, in which he had mentioned his population theory. All right, so this is a factual one, but this is mentioned in your book in the chapter. So it means those informations which is there in the chapter, from among that only they have made questions. So these type of factual informations you should be aware in the chapter. So answer would be second. Now, second stage of demographic transition is called. So here, this is another population theory. So second stage, so basically another population theory that is talking about three stages of the population demographic transition, or three theories of the population. All right, population growth you can say. So first stage, second stage, and third stage. So here they have talked, or they have asked about second stage. So if any keyword is associated with first and third, that you should also remember, that you should also know about. So second stage, basically this is what, this is between first and third. So this may be a transition one. All right, so this is what, this is known as transitional stage. So whenever any stage, for example, if any time period is divided into stage, and the middle one will always be a transitional one. Always remember that. Okay, in the one extreme situation you will find, in the last extreme situation you will find, and second one will be a transition from one to last. All right, so here on that basis you can attempt this question. So second, the answer of this, that will be 3, that second stage of demographic transition, that is called a transitional stage. So this has also been asked from second chapter. Okay, so now next is what, next is a chart based question. So this is another type of question on which CUET may ask a question on that. So there are certain charts which are mentioned, or certain datas which are mentioned in your book or in the chapter. So those datas, those charts, these are important. There are certain tables regarding age of population growth, or structure of population, age structure of population. Then literacy data is also being mentioned. Then these charts are mentioned 1981, 2026, that is projection of population. So here all these charts are important, and how you have to read, and what you have to read in those charts, and what type of questions they may ask you. So for example, here you can see there is a chart in which male and female population is being represented on the basis of age structure. All right, 0 to 4, 4 to 8. Okay, so like this chart has been made. What question they have made? They have made that which one characteristic is evident in this population pyramid of India in 1981. So this is about 1981. Here you can see a chart which is having male and female population, and this population, it is somewhere decreasing, somewhere a contraction you can see from the base to the top. Okay, so at the base it is somewhere spread, and then it is going inward. When it is going at the top, it means the population or the aged population. So when it reached to the aged population, then population is on the decline. So here, what you have to understand and what you have to see, or how you have to attempt this question. So here they have asked which characteristic is evident in this population pyramid of India. All right. So here question has been asked that population of youth under age 40 is growing. Okay, under age 40 it is growing. Then there are more females aged 0 to 4 than males. India is in stage 2 of demographic transition model. There are more women aged 65 to 99 than men. So here the red one, that is female, the blue one, that is male. So if I say the fourth option, there are more female aged between 65 to 99, it means this is aged population. And if you look at the chart, here you can see that both male and female population, that is somewhere similar. Okay, there is no exceeding population of female. Male and female population or aged population, somewhere this is growing in a similar way. Then third option, India is in the second stage 2 of the demographic transition model. So this is not a demographic transition model. Here what is happening? Demographic transition model, what is that? Basically stage 2, if you see. At the stage 1, the society was technologically backward. So death rate and birth rate, that was higher. At the third, death rate has been controlled. Birth rate has also been controlled with the help of some government measures, medical facility, then government policies regarding family planning. So these things are happening at the third stage. Second stage is what? That some developments are happening. Technological developments are happening, which is helpful in the controlling of the death rate population, but still population is high. All right, so here this also doesn't talk about stage 2 population. Then second, what is it saying? There are more females aged 0 to 4 than males. So if you see here at the base, 0 to 4 years of population. So 0 to 4 is what? That is the first age which has been represented in this chart. So you will find that both male and female population. So at the base side, female population is going from 0 to 12, and so this male is. But if you see thoroughly, so female population is somewhere more at the base scale, okay, as compared to male. So here what is evident? The second option, that will be correct about this question. So that is the evident which we can see, that there are more females aged between 0 to 4 than the males. All right. So here you should be aware that how you have to attempt any questions which is in the form of chart. All right, so chart-based questions. So thoroughly just read the chart during your last-minute preparation. Okay. Now, according to Thomas Malthus, that increases the death rate. And what are these? Negative checks, positive checks, birth rate, life expectancy. So if you are aware of Thomas Malthus' provisions of population growth, or his theory of population growth, so you must be aware of the checks what he has mentioned. So there are two checks, positive check and preventive check. So on that basis as well, only positive check is mentioned, so you can attempt this question, that positive check is being mentioned if you are not aware of it. So what you have to do, you should be aware of birth rate. So birth rate he has now talked about. Life expectancy, that is part of another population theory, population growth theory. Negative checks has not been mentioned anywhere. So here only positive check is left. All right. So the source is the same, demographic structure, and answer is 2. Now, whenever there is a bulge in the age group pyramid amongst the non-dependent age, it is described as. So, what is the source? Source is second chapter. Yes. So here, understand the question. Whenever there is a bulge in age group pyramid, bulge means when it is in what say thickness. Bulge is what? That is a thickness. It is increasing or expanding. So whenever bulge is being seen in any of the age group pyramid amongst the non-dependent age group, and who are non-dependent age group, that is between 50 to 69. Okay, 50 to 15 to 59 somewhere. All right. So this is what? This is the working population. This is the working age population. That is what? Non-dependent, who are in the working stage. So whenever any bulge you can see or expansion in that age group, which is termed as non-dependent. So what does it describe? Economic stability, demographic dividend, population planning, census. So it is not census, because census is what? That is collection of data of all the age group. Census is what? That is collection of data of the population. So census hat jata hai. Then population planning. So it is nothing talking about any such planning. It is only asking you about a bulge. Okay, what is to be called. So population planning is also on the basis of your basic understanding. You can mark it out. All right. So it will be, that is also an odd man out. Then we are left with economic stability and demographic dividend. So economic stability, it is basically, it is what? This bulge in the age group of non-dependent, that is what? That is a working age population. So stability would not come, but what happens? Economy will grow. All right. So this age group, it doesn't bring stability, because this population, because they are non-dependent, that is between 50 to 15 to 59, 15 to 59. So here, what does that mean? That those who are 59, they will be growing the age, then they will become a dependent one. All right. So so here economic stability is not the case, but what is the case? That is demographic dividend. It means this is talking about working age population, and working age population is what? That is demographic dividend of any country. So if you have read this chapter thoroughly, so you would be aware of these terms. You would be aware of these concepts. Okay. So answer is 2, that is demographic dividend. Then another question, which of these terms refers to an independent country whose people mostly share a common identity? Common identity it is talking about. Common identity, it means nationality. That is the common identity. Everybody is having their own individual identity. For example, let's say about me. My name is so and so. My religion is so and so. My age is different. My language is different. So this is not my, this is my individual identity. But if we talk about common identity which people share, so what can be among from the options given below? Colonial empire, ethnic group, nation states, plural society. So colonial empire, colonial, it is talking about an empire. So empire, that is not an identity. Colonialism is not an identity. Ethnic group, it means it is talking about some community, ethnicity of the group. So it is also not a common identity. Then plural society, it means where people of different, culture, different tradition, different language, they are living. So this is also not an identity. So what we are left with, that is a nation state. So nation state, that is the common identity of a people. Okay, where people from different religion, different community, different age group, different language, they are living in a particular territory governed by a sovereign government, where they have certain freedom. So this is the identity of those people, that is called a nation state. Okay, so this the source of this question, that is chapter 6. As I've said, 11 questions I have found asked from the chapter 6, that is challenges of cultural diversity. Okay, so this is important chapter because many questions had been asked, so you cannot ignore this. Okay, now, which of the following is not a feature central to public perception of disability? So here this question, it is directly they have taken up from the chapter. Directly they have taken it up and they have copied and pasted. But one mistake you will find, that I'll talk about it later. Question is asking which of the following is not a feature about central to public perception of disability. So disabled are who are physically impaired. They are called disabled. All right. So here, what is the public perception about them? Because we are talking about sociology. This is sociology session. So public perception they have talked about. They have asked about in the context of disability. What are the options? Disability is linked with the disabled individual's self perception. It means disability. Whenever we people say so, see. So what do they say? They link it up with the disabled individual's self perception. It means the person who is disabled. So that is his self perception that he is disabled. What people think about him. Okay, then the very idea of disability suggests that they are in the need of help. So whenever we say any impaired, physically impaired person, so what do we think? We think that this person needs our help, but we do not think, for example, let's say blind person. So what do we think? A common general let's say understanding that this person might need our help to cross the road, but we do not understand that he is self-made, self-aware how he has to cross the road. But this is our perception, the public perception, that whenever we see any disabled person, we think that this person might need help from us. Then another is what? Disability is a biologically given. We think that biologically by birth he when this person is a disabled. Then another is what? Whenever a disabled person is contracted with problems, it is taken for granted that the problems originate from his or her impairment. This is also public perception, that whenever we see a disabled person or whenever he faces any problem, so we just take it for granted that this problem might be originated by his or her impairment, because he is impaired. So because of that, he is facing such problem. So this question is asking which of the following is not a feature, but they have given all the features. So there is some problem in the framing of the questions, but anyhow, we cannot say that which is the incorrect one, because all the options are correct. So source, you just know about it from where they have asked. That is chapter 5, patterns of social inequality and exclusion. So just think about it and just take it as that this chapter or this topic is important for the examination. So if they have framed such question, but some mistake is there, but this topic is important from the exam point of view, and this in this form they may ask the question, so you should be aware of these. Okay, now what is the time limit to get information under RTI Act 2005? So this is what? This is a factual one. You should be aware if you have read political science. There must be mentioning of this. You should be aware if you are what's saying if you are in contact with the current affairs. Then often now and then RTI is in the news. So if you are aware of it, or if you have filed any RTI application, so you might have get the information within so and so days. So you should be aware of it. So this is mentioned in your chapter only. All right. So what is the source of this question? That is the same chapter, chapter 6, challenge of cultural diversity. So this is just a factual question what they have asked, but you should be aware about RTI Act. So by this, by mentioning question on RTI, what does it signify? It signifies that RTI is also important from the exam point of view. So you should be aware of those things, those points, those informations which is mentioned in your chapter. Okay, so here they are asking about the time limit. So what is the time limit? So basically this is 30 days. So within 1 month, within 30 days, they have to give information if any person filing an RTI about any of the matter. All right, so answer is what? That is 3. Now, religious identity overrides everything else. Whenever one is poor or rich, whenever one's occupation, caste, or political beliefs, it is religion alone that counts. This is the characteristic feature of. So here, just read the question that what is it? It is talking about that religious identity that overrides everything else. So this is identity, particularly about religious identity. So whether a person is poor or rich, whether he is doing any of the things, any of the caste he belongs to, or whatever beliefs, political beliefs he is having, but it is religion alone that counts in the society. So what is the characteristic feature of it? Okay, What are the options mentioned? Political identity, regionalism, both political identity and regionalism, and communalism. So just understand the keyword here. What is the keyword? That is religious identity. That is the keyword. So whenever any person, whenever any group who are hardcore religious person, or whose identity is dependent on the religion only. So what does it signify? It signify communal structure of the society, or communalism in the society. All right. So, what is the source of this question? That is chapter 6, the same chapter. And what is the right answer? The right answer is communalism, because it is talking about religious identity. And this identity has overridden everything else. Whether you belong to any occupation, caste, doesn't matter. If you are aware of national movement during, let's say, in the modern India, then this communalism that was on the peak between Hindu and Muslim. You know? So that was there. So right answer is what? That is fourth, communalism. Now, next is what? Which article is for the protection of interest of minorities in the domain of educational admission to any academic section? So here, basically, in the chapter, that is the source is chapter 6 only. So in this chapter, two articles have been talked about. Article 29 and Article 30. And both the articles, these are basically, it is talking about the rights of minorities, but in different ways. So here, interest of minorities has been taken care in both these articles. But you have to identify which article is particularly asked in this question. So what is the question? Article is for the protection of interest of minorities in the domain of educational admission. So here particularly they are talking about the admission in the educational institutions to any academic session. So as I've said, two articles, that is Article 29 and 30, both are talking about protection of interest of the minorities, but in different ways. So Article 29, that is protecting the interest of minorities in the way of taking admission. Okay, none of the institutions can deny admission of minorities. Okay, and 30 is talking about it. 30 is giving permission or protecting the rights of those person who belongs to a minority and they want to establish any institution, educational institution, whether it will be state funded or privately, or both public and private. Okay, so here you should be aware of, as I've said, both the articles. That is important from exam point of view. So the source of this question, that is chapter 6 only, and answer is 3, that is Article 29. So Article 29 is the correct answer. As I've said, 29 is talking about the interest of the person who is seeking admission in the educational admission, and he belongs to a minority. And 30 is giving right to the minority person or community to establish their institution. All right. So in different ways, they are protecting the rights of minorities. So 29 is the correct answer. Now, next one. Cultural minorities may in some cases need special protection. This is because of demographics. And so here, another minority they have talked about, that is cultural minority. And what is the question? May in some cases need special protection. In some cases, they require special protection. So why they require so? This is because of demographics. And now understand this. What are the options? Dominance of majority, dominance of minority, submissiveness of minority, dominance of both. All right. So both means majority and minority. So here, what is the question? That is about cultural minority needs special protection. So when because they are in the minority, so when they will need protection, they will need protection whenever they will see dominance of the majority, whenever they will find dominance of the majority, not of the minority. Okay, so source of the question, that is chapter 6, challenge of cultural diversity, and correct answer is what? That is answer 1, that is dominance of majority. So you know what I have found? I have found that these questions, they have directly taken up from the lines. Okay, so those lines which are mentioned in your chapter, so they have framed it in the form of question. Directly they have copied it and pasted it and made it or presented in the form of question and answer. Okay, so it means nothing is out of the syllabus or everything is there in the chapter. Now, next one, national state is closely associated with. So here, now understand the options. So here it is talking about national state. So national state, basically, this is what, or nation state you can say, not national state. So nation state you can say. So what it is closely associated with. So understand this. So if I say rise of nationalism, basically rise of nationalism leads to establishment of nation state. Okay, whenever we say rise of nationalism, so rise of nationalism is what? That is a process through which country or individual achieve nation state. Colonialism, it is not the answer because we know that it is not associated with colonialism. Capitalism, that is the economic, okay, it is related to the economy of a country or economy of a territory. So capitalism, that is the economic method. So it is also not associated. So what we are left with? We are left with civil society. Civil society, it means that is a society where people are living. So nation state, that is closely associated with what? That is civil society. So these type of questions you can solve. You have to take time, few minutes, few seconds, read the question thoroughly, twice or thrice, understand what they have asked, and look out the options. Options will give you clear view and understanding what will be the correct answer. So on the basis of your clear basic understanding, you will be able to solve the question. All right. So what is the source? The same. So chapter 6 and answer is 4. Okay. Now next one. The larger princely states of Mysore, Kashmir and Baroda after independence were sought to be reorganized into ethno-linguistic states. This was done in response to. Here, about 3 states they have talked about: Mysore or princely states, Mysore, Kashmir, and Baroda. So, if you are aware of their story, so what happened? They wanted, they sought to reorganize into ethno-linguistic states, ethnicity and their language. On that basis, that had to be reorganized. So, that was done in response to what? Strong popular agitation, British directives, both agitation and British directives, neither agitation nor British directives. So first understand this, both and neither. That will not be the case. Why? Because it was neither agitation nor British directives. So basically British directives, that is also not was the case. Agitation had been there, but not directives of the British. Then neither agitation nor British directives. So this question you can all solve on the basis of understanding. If you have basic understanding about sociology or about Indian society, or if you have heard some stories about these princely states after independence, what happened with them after independence. So on that basis as well, you can attempt this question. So basically here ethno-linguistic states it is talking about. So who will fight for the ethno-linguistic identity? That is the people, not the king, not the prince, but who will fight for this identity? That is the people. So people, what they will do? They will be doing agitation, strong popular agitation. Okay, so this is the same chapter from where question has been asked and answer is 1. That is answer is what? That is 1. Okay, now one question on which you have to apply your brain, you have to give some time to think about. Question, what is what they have asked in the form of assertion and reason. Assertion is saying that COVID-19 has led to a significant increase in the death rate, with the global death toll crossing 2 million people. Reason is saying Malthus believed that positive checks to population growth in the form of famines and disease were inevitable because they were nature's way of dealing with the imbalanced food supply and increasing population. So here, if you understand the assertion, this is talking about COVID-19. So COVID-19, because of COVID-19, death rate had increased worldwide. But was it on the basis of population growth theory of Malthus? Does it go with this? So you need to have proper understanding of the Malthus theory of population growth. So he had said about positive and preventive check. So here it has talked about positive check about famines and disease that comes, which is the nature's way to deal with the population growth. Okay, to clear out the imbalance which has occurred because of high population, and this imbalance is between food supply and increasing population. So COVID-19, if you are aware, so that is the another reason of COVID-19 and how it has increased, or how it has increased the death rate. All right, so this is not the case, or reason is not basically supporting the assertion. So here answer will be two. That is B. That is both A and R are correct, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Another thing, the source. Source is what? Second chapter. Okay, so from second chapter, demographic structure, this question had been asked. Now the next one. One of the characteristic feature of the modern era is the establishment of democracy and nationalism as dominant source of political legitimacy. This means that today. So here they have asked about characteristic feature of modern era during establishment of democracy and nationalism. That is the dominant source of political legitimacy. So here democracy, nationalism, this has been talked about. So on that basis you can understand the that which from which chapter this question may have asked, and what are the feature of the democracy and nationalism. So by reading the options you can answer the question easily. Okay, so what are the options? Nation means United Nations. Nation is the most accepted or proper justification of a state. Nation is the least accepted of the state. Nation is a substitute for identity. Okay, so first we'll talk about the source. Source is challenge of cultural diversity, and on the basis of the question, what can be the answer of it? That is, nation is the most accepted or proper justification of a state. Okay. Now, language coupled with regional and tribal identity and not religion has therefore provided the most powerful instrument for the formation of blank identity. So, what can be there? So, here the language they have talked about, which is coupled with the regional and tribal identity. Okay, so source is what? The same challenge of cultural diversity, and what will be the answer? That is ethno-national. So here this question that directly they have copied the statement and put it in the question form. So it means this chapter is having high weightage, and many questions you can expect, and it is important to read line by line entire sociology. So whatever you have done till now, just believe on that and attempt the question and apply your brain. Basic understanding is required while attempting these questions. Now, name the kind of social movement which started focusing on the welfare of the people. Welfare of the people. Now, here options are mentioned: old social movement, new social movement, medieval movement, religious movement. So there is nothing which is called medieval movement. So medieval movement, you need not to give your time while thinking about the option. So medieval is there is nothing sort of movement. Religious movement, it is talking about social movement and welfare of the people. So religious will also be phased out. We are left with only old and new. Understand this. This is talking about, question is asking about welfare of the people. So welfare of the people, if you are aware of old versus new, or if you have read old versus new, so you must be knowing that old social movement had focused upon the social issues, focused upon political issues, but new social movement, somewhere it is talking about environmental issues, or it is talking about contemporary issues. Okay, so here what is that? The answer will be old social movement. Okay. So the source is second book, that is Social Change and Development in India, eighth chapter, social movement, and answer is what? That is one, old social movements. Now another is what? Combination of ethnicity based on tribal identity, language, regional deprivation, and ecology provided the basis for intense regionalism, resulting in dispute, statehood, debasement, degradation. So here it is talking about any ethnic group or tribal identity which is having their own language, and their regional deprivation is going on, ecological deprivation is going on. So what they will demand for? This question is also can be solved on the basis of basic understanding. You need not to be worried that you have not read the chapter, you are not aware of this question. You can attempt it on the basis of basic understanding. So here, this type of situation that arises or that results into statehood, the demand of the state, separate state, so that they can preserve their identity, those identity which are mentioned, their language, their tribal identity, their regional deprivation which is going on, they can protect it, ecological deprivation which is going on, they can protect it. So statehood they demand for, and many of the instances we have seen. So this question, the source of this question, that is challenge of cultural diversity, and answer is what? That is 2. Next is what? Continuous dialogue, negotiation, even struggle against significant others. Those directly involved in our lives, like our parents, family, kin group, and our community. The process is known as. So, here, understand this is talking about dialogue, negotiation, and struggle against significant. Okay, this is significant other than those which we have with our family or parents. So, what type of dialogue or what is the process about this dialogue? So achieved identity, socialization, nation state, dual citizens. So here, on the basis of basic understanding, this question could be solved. Okay, so this is not about achieved identity. What is the meaning of it? This term you might not have seen in your chapters when if you have read it thoroughly. Socialization, that is the possible one. Okay, because it is talking about some changes in the social society. Nation state, it cannot be, because it is not about political thing which is asked in the question, and it is also not about dual citizen, because it is not talking anything related to the citizen or population. So here, the source of this question, that is cultural diversity, and answer is 2, that is socialization. Now there is one paragraph question which is mentioned, and that is about tribal population, their identity, their percentage of population where they are lying. All right, so source is what? That is chapter 3, social institutions, continuity and change. And on the basis of the passage, questions had been asked. So just read what is the doable thing whenever any passage based question they ask. The doable thing is what? Read the passage thoroughly. Answers are mentioned in the chapter, in the passage only. Okay, so here question is talking about the language group. Okay, which is having population somewhere 1% of the, let's say, which of the following language groups are shared by both tribals and rest of the Indian population. So you have to answer about language groups of the tribal population and Indian population. Okay, on the basis of percentage mentioned here. So this question could be solved on the basis of this passage. Okay, so answer is what? That is 4, Indo-Aryan and Dravidian. Then according to 2011 census, what is the total population of tribal population? That is 8.6. Then northeastern state has lowest tribal population. So here 4 options are being mentioned, and if you have read the passage thoroughly and the chapter thoroughly, then you can answer this question. So this is Assam, where least tribal population you will find. Okay, then there is another. Whenever there is a bulge in the age group pyramid amongst the non-dependent group, that is beneficial for. Okay, so bulge in the age group, that is what? Demographic dividend we have talked about. So this is the same question, but it is asked differently. So first we have talked about whenever bulge in the age group, which is what's a working age non-dependent group. So what is to be called? That was demographic dividend. And here they have asked that those bulge in the age group among the non-independent age group. So what for what it is beneficial? So obviously it is beneficial for the economic stability. Right, sorry, that is what? Demographic dividend. No, it is not demographic, but it is economic stability. Okay, so answer would be 1, not 2. Then another question, there is a small information, passage information. Read the passage and give the answer. Okay, so this passage is talking about if property rights will be given to the people on the basis of redistribution of the land, then for what it will be beneficial. What this passages describes. So first line, redistribution of property rights on the land for the benefit of small farmer and agricultural laborers include 2 types of institutional changes. So whenever redistribution of property rights is being done, so what it describes land reforms. Okay, so on the basis of clear understanding about the topic, you can attempt this question. So source of this question, that is second book, Social Change and Development, and from chapter 4 this question had been asked. Okay, then this is somewhere some of the what's say, not topics, yeah, topics and different terms you should be aware of, like prejudice, stereotype, discrimination. These are or these 3 are important, because in any way, in any form, questions can be asked. So like this question that is talking about, refer to preconceived opinions. So whenever preconceived opinions you will find, or attitude you find about any group or person, so what is that? That is, you have prejudiced the person. Prejudice. All right. So here, this is this. The source is what? Chapter 5 of first book, Indian Society. Chapter is pattern of social inequality and exclusion. Answer is what? Answer 2. This question is also a similar one, so you can attempt this. We can leave this question. Then tea plantation industry. This is a factual one. Okay, 1851 it has established in India. So this question had been asked from structural change of book 2. Okay, social change and development. It means structural change is having some factual informations, and those factual informations you should know about, and you cannot leave this chapter. Okay, then another is about, so this question that has been asked from first book chapter 5. So here it is talking about some exclusion inclusion. So just read the question. Blank refers to the ways in which individuals may become cut off from full involvement in the wider society. Okay, so this is something exclusion they are talking about. They are excluding certain people, and from there they are excluding from the society. So what type of exclusion it is? It is social exclusion. Basic question it is. Okay, so you can answer it. No, it's 2. It's not 1. It's social exclusion. The social exclusion is not accidental and but systematic. It is a result of structural feature of society. Okay, because it is social. There is another question from the same chapter. Why do some coffee advertisements in India display 2 cups of packages, whereas in America they show 1 cup only? So 2 cup in the coffee advertisement in India you will see. So what does that mean? It means that it is coffee is what? Coffee is about socializing. Whenever we meet some friend, what we offer them? Let's go for a coffee. Okay, so this is what? This is socializing of those 2 individual who have met after so long. So these 2 cups advertisement of coffee in India, that is what? That is drinking coffee is an occasion to socialize with others. That is something like that. Okay, so that is from the second book, 5th chapter, change and development in industrial society, and answer is what? That is 4. Then these are some of the questions from different chapters that has been asked, so you should be aware. So like this chapter, this question has been framed directly. They have taken up one sentence and put it in the question form. So answer is 2, that is positive. So in, industrialization after during 20th century, so that was inevitable and it was positive. Obviously when during 20th century, when industrialization came, that was favorable for the society. Okay, development had taken place, so it was positive in nature. Then agriculturists produce primarily for themselves, are unable to produce for the market. So who are producing for themselves? That is called subsistence agriculture. This is common thing. Okay, this is very common. What's a key definition of agriculture on the basis of production. So although it is mentioned in the chapter, that is chapter 4 of second book, change and development in rural society, and on that basis answer is 2, subsistence agriculture. So here some of the questions you will find on the basis of theories which is mentioned in your chapter. So this is about social movement, or social movement is having certain theories. So question is asking, social conflict arises whenever social group feels that it is worse off than others around it. So this is the same line which is mentioned in the book, in the chapter about a theory. And what theory it is? That is theory of relative deprivation. Okay. So you should be aware of all the theories which is mentioned in the chapter regarding social movements, and on that basis you can attempt this question. So these type of questions you can find. So while seeing these questions, we can say that in sociology questions are not that tricky, although they have asked what's say from the core of the chapter, that we can say they have asked questions in the form of statements, those statements which is mentioned in the book, in the chapters. So it means that you have to study, you have to read those chapter with full focus, with what we can say, in the focused manner. Okay, so focusedly you have to read the chapter, because questions what we have find out in the sample paper, that is directly they have asked from the chapters only. Directly they have put the statements. Okay, like this question is all as well. The direct line has been mentioned over here. Only you have to attempt the correct option. So what is the question? Government is trying to sell its share. So whenever government try its sell its share, so what is the meaning of it? Disinvestment. It is disinvesting. Okay. So the source is what? That is chapter 5, change and development in industrial society, and answer is 3. Same is the case with this question as well. Okay. And transitional moment after 1931. So how this transitional moment had come, and it resulted in the demographic dividend. So it came because India saw in the population that dependency ratio had decreased. Okay. So source is what? That is second chapter, demographic structure of India. That nation is a peculiar sort of body that is easy to describe but hard to define. So here you have to imply what does it mean. So all the options you will find that is correct. Okay, but what is the meaning of, what does it imply? So it is what? It is somewhere it is saying that the ultimate source of legitimacy that is lying in the hands of people who have constituted a nation. Okay. And Begum, so this is a factual one. Begum Ruqayya Shekhawat Hussain, in her story Sultana's Dream, spoken about widow remarriage, caste discrimination, double standards in male-dominated society, reversal of gender roles. So if you are aware of Sultana's Dream, so in Sultana's Dream, she had portrayed a story in which the role of male and female got changed. Okay, vice versa, reversal. Okay, so answer is 4. Then another factual question, that is, which amendment introduced reservation for the other backward classes in institutions of higher education? So this is also mentioned in the book only, in the chapter. Okay, and directly they have put this question. So 93rd Amendment Act had been there, which has introduced reservation for the backward classes in the higher education institutions. Okay, so the source is what? That is pattern of social inequality and exclusion, and answer is what? That is first. Now, passage based question. So as I've said, that passages thoroughly you have to read, and you can get the answer from the passages only. There is no need to worry about. So this passage is that has been asked from social movement chapter from the second book, and question on that basis is what? One of the key features of social movement. So this is the basic understanding. So what is the key feature of movement? Social movement, it developed distinct mode of protest, always fight to support authoritarianism, negate individualism. They are always localized. So they are never localized. Okay, they are spread widely. Okay, it cannot negate individualism, and it is not fight to support authoritarianism. Rather it is against authoritarianism. So what are we left with? Develop distinct mode of protest. Distinct mode of protest we can see. Okay, whether in the form of candlelight, torchlight, or anything, or violent, non-violent. Okay. Then on the basis of the passage, you can answer this question that the campaign, no tax campaign in Surat in 1928, that was what? Bardoli Satyagraha. That is common, very common question, very basic question has been asked. All right. Then social movement occur at, so that can be occur at local, regional, and global levels. Then one question that is, this is based on the theory, so you can answer this. There is another question about agriculture. So whenever any owner of a land or estate, they are owning the land, but they are not doing anything on it. They only claim rent over it. So what is the, who are they? Okay, what is the definition of, what is the meaning of it? Who are the person who is having land, but he is not an agriculturalist, who is not a farmer, but he just claim rent over it? So they are called absentee landlord. And the source of this question is third chapter of Indian society. And answer is what? That is 1. Here, this question is being framed in the chart form. Okay, so if you read it, if you see the chart, structural, cognitive. Okay, so there is something which is having 2 parts, structural and cognitive. Structural is having institutions, associations, networks, rules and guidelines, participation. Cognitive is what? Shared values, reciprocity, trust, attitude, norms of behavior. So just look out the options: economic capital, political capital, social capital, and cultural capital. So capitals, which is mentioned in the chapter, there are 3 types of capital: economic, political, and social. Cultural is not there. So you can phase it out. You are left with three: economic, political, and social. So just look out the structural and cognitive details, what details they have mentioned. On that basis, you can have your basic understanding what capital they are asking. They are saying rules and guidelines, so that can be part of political as well, that can be part of society as well. Association, political associations may happen, political institutions may happen. But in the cognitive, it is about shared values, reciprocity, trust on each other, attitude, norms of behavior. So where these will lie. So maybe it may confuse you, but it will give you a clear understanding, clear answer. So that is what, that is social capital it is talking. So this the source of this question, you can see that is from the fifth chapter of first book, and here clearly this is mentioned. So whenever you find certain terms, these are important for the examination. Okay. Now the last question is what? Who was connected with the Panchayat Raj in tribal region? So this is also a direct question they have asked. And Panchayati Raj is important from the exam point of view, although only one question I found from here, but it is important from the exam point of view. You cannot ignore it. Okay, so this is talking about tribal region. So first keyword is what? That is Panchayati Raj. So who are associated with the Panchayati Raj? So Mahatma Gandhi has said that Panchayat should be instituted, should be made as an institution for grassroots democracy. Ambedkar, he said that if Panchayati Raj will be, he had criticized basically. Okay, so he had criticized this Panchayati Raj. So they are not associated with the tribal region. Okay, who are left? K. Santaram and Tilput Nongbri. So basic understanding, on the basis of name, I can say that Tilput Nongbari is the person who is connected with the Panchayati Raj in tribal region. So basic understanding, my understanding is saying that maybe this is the person, because K. Shantaram, he had, if you are aware of the chapter, so he was the person behind its inception. Okay, he has talked about that Panchayati Raj should be part of the constitution, and later on after 40 years this has made as a new chapter of the constitution, by amending the constitution. So this person, you will find that particularly he is the person who is associated with Panchayati Raj in tribal region, and this fact is mentioned in the chapter itself. Okay, so sources what? That is Social Change and Development book, chapter 3, Story of Indian Democracy. This is also important, and answer is 3. All right, so these are all the questions what we have discussed, what are mentioned in the slide today. So these questions give us an impression about the type of questions which is going to be asked in your examination. Those chapters from which questions has not been made, that doesn't mean you have to skip it. You have to go through it. You have to give some glimpse, you have to get some idea from the chapter. Okay, but from where questions are, many questions have been asked. So these chapters are important. So you have to go through it. You cannot leave any of the things. All right. Any questions anyone is having, they can ask me. I think there is no question. Any questions? Okay. So all such informations we have shared, we have discussed over here. So with this, I'll wind up the session. Thank you so much for watching, and all the best for the examination. And well, prepare it well, do it well, and give your full 100% efforts in the examination. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.